الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you, the dear viewers at home, and to our live studio audience guests here in the studio. Welcome to another episode of Talk to Me. We have a selection of episodes coming up dealing with some topical issues that hopefully are things that are on your minds and we'd like to discuss with our live audience panel guests here today. The first issue that we're going to be addressing today, and is very pertinent because it's not too far away, is the wonderful month of Ramadan. What challenges do you face when fasting in the month of Ramadan, living here in the West? From your work schedule, to the health changes that you may experience in your own personal circumstances, to how maybe your work colleagues possibly treat you. I'm going to open the floor with questions from the guests, inshallah ta'ala, and to contribute on this question on Ramadan. So, yes, sister, talk to me.
For me, as a revert sister, Ramadan can be quite isolating, as can Eid at the end. And yeah, really.
Why is it isolating? You just joined almost 2.5 million brothers and sisters in the UK.
Yes, yeah. But they all go home to their families. Those lovely warm invites you get most of the year aren't so forthcoming. Just due to the nature of my work, I can't invite people around mine, and due to the nature of my work, I can't actually go down the masjid either because I have children to look after. So for me, it's quite an isolated.
What do you guys say about that then? If you've got a revert sister here, clearly struggling in Ramadan to be on her own, where do you think people are falling short potentially? Yes, brother.
Yes, it's true. I think this is echoed by many brothers and sisters that I know that are reverts in terms of, wanting to join in with the, iftar festivities and wanting to, be able to be a part of these iftar parties and stuff. But it's for the brothers and sisters who are, born Muslim or have large Muslim families to extend.
So those who are born Muslim, they don't have challenges.
This particular challenge we're talking about in terms of, the isolation of revert brothers and sisters who have left potentially their families and their communities, in order to embrace Islam fully and be in a Muslim environment. So it's upon us, I believe, to extend invites and make
Who's
sure
us?
Us as in Muslims who are born Muslims, right? In terms of those who have the, mashallah, Muslim families and gatherings that are, every Ramadan we're able to attend. We should invite be very conscious of Muslim reverts, especially during this time. So that's
extending our hands out more to them and to invite them. Okay, so we've got the revert scenario, which is the loneliness element, okay, which exists. Okay, and that's not just in Ramadan, is it? Maybe throughout the year as well, potentially exists.
Yeah, potentially,
but I'm going to jump off the revert bandwagon and move on to something else. Is that the only challenge? I mean, I asked a general question, and the first thing came up from a revert perspective. I'll take the point here from the brother here. Yes.
Yeah, so for someone like me who's meshed within the Muslim community, it's the complete opposite, actually. I actually want moments of solitary reflection. And Ramadan, in some parts of London, has become...
in the ghetto.
Ghetto, a bazaar. Outside the mosque, you'll have lots of shops and food. Bazaar, and you don't want that socialization. Even Tarawih itself...
That's what multiculturalism is all about.
It is, but I think...
Free samosas, if the indigenous population braves out and comes and joins us at like 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that's an inevitable development of any religious practice. But I think for practicing Muslims, I think there's an essence that's been lost by this culturalization of Ramadan.
It's just been a big 30-day festival.
Yes, that's right.
And you think it should be more?
It's down to the individual. For me, it's more personal, solitary reflection. Solitary reflection on the Quran.
But who's stopping you from doing that?
No one's stopping me, but as a someone who's meshed within the community, I think many years of going to the mosque all the time, praying the Tarawih, I think it loses the
sisters. That's what they left. They left maybe a different culture to come to the warmth of this wonderful big body of individuals that worship Allah together, and there's a communal spirit, and people work together. I mean, maybe
I think what you're touching on is a wider issue, which is that there are many reverts out there who are looking for belonging, community, or someone like me who's had a community and belonging. I think I'm somehow I feel I need more solitary.
I think we have a new program here potentially when we can swap what a revert goes through to somebody who's a born Muslim and they can see how their lives are different. That's a good one. Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I think Siyam is one aspect of Ramadan because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان.
Yep.
The month of Ramadan is in which the Quran was revealed and it is a guidance for all of humanity.
Yep.
So the essence of Ramadan is the Quran. And the objective of Siyam, as the ayah says in Baqarah, is taqwa. So from a perspective of us as Muslims, it is an ideal opportunity to showcase all of the beauty of Islam as a way of life, not as some sort of weight loss program or some grotesque iftars where people literally will eat and then they forget that the Quran is for listening, understanding, and acting upon.
Right.
So it's a way of life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent this in the month of Ramadan for all of humanity. And I think you've got to set the context of this in the proper way. Otherwise, the whole object and purpose is lost.
What about you? What challenges do you face, though? I mean, you seem like a pretty fit guy, so weight loss is not on your agenda. But what challenges do you face?
Actually, to be very frank with you, the only challenge is it's not enough time to worship Allah. No, I've got no problem, akhi. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it easy
UK timing is a bit tricky.
I'm self-employed, alhamdulillah, so I work according to my own schedule except for necessary commitment.
That's a privilege.
It is a privilege and it's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my house functions on the Ramadan cycle during the night. We sleep after Fajr.
Do you have children?
Yes, I do, mashallah.
So doesn't that disrupt you, the school routine?
No, we have
or
Islamic
do you just throw that onto the missus?
Islamic schools, homeschooling, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a way.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. Jazakallah. Thanks for your comment. I'm going to go to the sister, and then I'm going to go back to, I want to know more about you. I'll come back to you, brother, but I do want you to focus on whether it's bad breath, whether it's, the classic, your boss catches you washing your feet in the communal sinks at work, whether it's, your tummy is rumbling in an important meeting and, you're happy to have it connected to a mic and it picks up everything. So yes, sister, go ahead.
Assalamualaikum. I wanted to stem from the aspect of spirituality and just 2 points. One is, for me personally, I feel like sometimes Ramadan turns into like a race of who's going to finish the Quran first, especially like amongst sisters when we discuss it's like, where are you up to? What were you up to? And it almost becomes like a race instead of trying to attain and do.
You should race to do good deeds.
And alhamdulillah, but I mean, you lose the essence of that. And another point, I also feel like, coming from a sister's perspective, is some people can be a bit judgmental on how you spend your Ramadan. For instance, you may be a stay-at-home mum, or you may be someone who's working long hours, and it's like, akhi, you haven't been to the masjid, or sister, what's going on? You haven't been to Taraweeh. And it's like, subhanAllah, I feel like it gets a bit judgmental because you have your own, everyone's got their own journey to Allah and their own way of doing, making sure that they do their ibadah to an extent which is sufficient for them, essentially. And I feel that sometimes can be a bit judgmental on how you spend your Ramadan, if that makes sense.
So you find the challenge that people are more judgmental in Ramadan?
Sometimes.
Okay, right, okay, that's interesting challenge. Sure. Brother.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu salam ala rasulillah. Of course, as our brother said, Ramadan is the month that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed the Quran to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And many of us really, when it comes to the month and we are in the masjid, we wish to stay the whole month to worship as much as we can, because it's only 29 days or 30 days that the whole month. So many people, when they see us, mostly they say to you, because in our countries we used to have our iftar at home, and the masjids were many. That maybe you can find masjid.
Home is where? Home is London?
In our countries.
Which is where for you?
Somalia.
Okay, so what's so different about
For example, the difference there is that there is a lot of masjids everywhere. In every corner there is a masjid.
It's London.
But here,
everywhere you roll, there's a masjid.
Yeah, no. Here you have to travel, or you have to check Google the nearest mosque to you.
And then the Taraweeh timings are different.
That is it, yes. And also when they invite you, for example, a friend will say to you, "Come and have iftar with me." Well, there is no masjid near his house.
Very difficult to get to
stay there. He fill your tummy with different kinds of food, and even you cannot even pray Taraweeh.
Yeah.
So what we say is that really, because as I said, it's only 29 or 30 days for the whole month. We wanted the whole day, but you cannot say, no, I don't come to your house. Still, we have to go there, but unfortunately, because the Maghrib and Isha and Taraweeh all are near to each other, even the Fajr now.
Yes.
Sometimes, since we go to Asr maybe there, we have to stay the whole night until Fajr, then we leave after Fajr. So but in our countries we're different. But many people, they think it's the same as there in our countries, and they say to you, come and have iftar with me. You miss then your, for example, Maghrib or Isha, maybe you catch Taraweeh, and you cannot concentrate because of the lot of food that he gave it to you.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much for your comment. Yes, brother at the back. And then I'm going to go on to the sister. One of the sisters had her hands up? No, okay. Go ahead, yes.
I think it's about striking a balance.
Good.
Just on the topic of it becoming a social event, because in this month we even know about the example of the Prophet ﷺ, who extended his kindness even more than he would in other months. And you wouldn't, and even just smiling, for example, these are things that you wouldn't be able.
But this is what people often say, that people are fasting, they're hungry, they're more irritable, they're more annoyed easily. Kids, oh, mom and dad are fasting. Teenagers, then maybe they're waking up, maybe they don't wake up. Khali wali suhoor, they do suhoor, they don't do suhoor. All of these things, doesn't it create a kind of grudging climate? People a little bit.
It's true that it is quite difficult. But I mean, it was difficult 1,000.
So how do you strike your balance? You said balance.
I think it was difficult 1,400 years ago as it was today.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, there are different challenges.
No, you're telling me they had the same challenges 1,400 years ago as we have today?
Well,
Internet, mobile, social media. You maybe fancy somebody, she's WhatsApping you day and night.
I think that I think the point that we were trying to make was that in terms of it being a social event, I mean, these are the kinds of acts of kindness and being charitable. These are things that you can't do in self-isolation. These are things that you might have to speak to people and be around. Everyone has work, everyone has school. So you have to be able to strike the balance between, okay, yes, you want to focus on the Quran, and maybe you're not speaking as much, maybe you're not talking to people as much, but still show that kindness and still show that compassion, because it's all about gaining rewards this month, and that's how you're going to be able to do it.
Unlike the privileged brother there who is self-employed, who's employed and who tries to change their work pattern? Any of the sisters here who work, do you have to change it? Do you sit down with your boss and say, look, I've got a difficult time coming, or a challenging time coming, and maybe I want to change my hours, for example? Do any of the brothers do that? Sisters first, nobody? Going. Gone. Raza, you'll have a chance next. Yes.
Previously, I've struggled with my spirituality during Ramadan, working for Muslim charities, specifically because...
Okay. I'll hear this one. I'll give you, because I have a response to this already, but go ahead. Yeah.
Specifically because there is such a race in terms of gathering funds from various institutes, various communities, that you almost lose the spirituality aspect of the month.
Maybe this is an HR issue, right? This is a people management job issue, right?
This could be a HR issue, or this could be a personal issue.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of Muslims within the kind of charity sector or media
which is the
sector,
boom period for them. Right?
Yeah, it is a boom period. But at the same time, it's almost as if we start to neglect responsibilities upon ourselves spiritually in the hopes of gaining the economic benefits for the organizations.
Yeah. Good point. No, I understand, especially those who work in the charity sector. It's absolutely true. Yeah. Yes, a brother, I'm going to go to you, then you to you, and then one of the sisters, inshallah, will jump in.
So, with the point about kind of working in a Muslim charity during Ramadan, like you said rightly, it's the boom time.
Yeah.
And that's
most of them make their money in Ramadan, right, to coast the whole year. Okay. How they use that money is another debate for another episode.
That's another debate. But with regards to, my experience, I've worked at a Muslim charity during Ramadan, and I've also worked at kind of like a corporate Big Four during Ramadan as well, looking at the difference. So with the charity that I worked at, they cultivated a new culture almost, right? In terms of Ramadan, you'd have your iftar at the place. They would facilitate even Taraweeh, bring a reciter down with beautiful qiraat to be there and there's a different vibe about the charity during this time. So as you're saying, perhaps it's a HR, it's a cultural issue upon the charities to actually go 10x on their kind of, helping facilitate ibadat and everything, being very conscious of their employees. And on the other side, when
that's good practice anyway, right? Even if it's a non-Muslim organization, which I'm trying to allude to, but I don't think anybody really is in that predicament where you would expect a good employer to accommodate the needs of a staff member. Whether, they do it for maternal issues, they do it for marital problems, they do it for bereavement, they do it for certain things that happen in life that will have a knock-on effect on your performance. Hence, the Ramadan should possibly be accommodated as well in some workplaces where it can be done. Anybody differ with that?
Alhamdulillah, we accommodated Ramadan in the 18 or 20 years I've been self-employed, where we would allow people the opportunity to worship. When Ramadan was in the winter, we would close early. On Jum'ah, the office is closed.
Yeah.
And even when I was employed...
You're an anomaly. You're an anomaly. We have to be clear on this.
Even when I was employed, I remember going for a job quite a long time ago, 20 years ago, and I wanted Jum'ah off. I wanted the accommodation, and I made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, went past the interview, said there's one issue. And I asked, you can't demand. There's a problem when you go like a bull in a china shop.
Yep.
If you ask, generally people are accommodating. But the point I wanted to make, again, the concept of fundraising in Ramadan as the silver bullet for the problems that are showcased, with respect, this is not the purpose of Ramadan. It's become very commercial. I'll be very blunt. It's become unduly commercial.
Yeah.
The whole idea is that sadaqah is very noble. Zakat is very noble. Being concerned for your brothers and sisters, wherever they are, or anybody who's needy, is very noble. But go with the context that the month of Ramadan, with the Quran as a furqan, it's to give us a reference point. And what the sister said earlier on about whether it's a revert or somebody who has no family, a new person that moved into the area, the whole concept needs to revolve around the masajid and your community. Know your community.
Yes.
So you can say, look, sister, if you haven't got any access, I'll come to drop some food off to you. You can come and join our family. And people have to come together in that way because...
To support them,
Well, otherwise, it's becoming very individualistic, very me. And that is not the purpose of Ramadan. But a broader point, Akhi, is this that...
Very quickly, one more minute.
If you look at Fath al-Makkah was in Ramadan. Ain Jalut was in Ramadan. Ittin was in Ramadan.
Yes.
Ta'if accepted Islam in Ramadan. Business as usual. Muslims don't have to go into a handbrake mode and park up. Islam has always seen challenges from the time of Rasul alayhi salatu wassalam. We've dealt with them with Allah's help.
Thank you. I'm going to move on the debate, and then I'll come back to you in a minute, sister. I'm going to say the word, and hopefully by the time they air this program, the thing will be pretty much under control, which is the coronavirus, right? Now you've got the new kind of, corona handshake, right? People elbowing each other, well, no, don't touch, maybe your foot, right foot, left foot, whatever. So, everybody's paranoid on the train, anybody coughs and everybody goes, What impact, there's a BBC article that came out, I think 3-4 days ago on, or I think it was in Al Jazeera, that coronavirus is having an impact on the way Muslims worship. Some masjids have been stopped. Haram, we've seen all these clips of the Haram being empty, quite unprecedented in people's lifetimes. How would you think coronavirus is going to impact us here in the UK? Can you put your hand in the same pot as the other person who just took the date from there? Are you going to think twice to go to a communal iftar in the masjid? God forbid you use the same cup to drink Zamzam water somebody's just brought over, for example. Yes, sister.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Everything has good and bad sides. I would take it as a good side when we try to interact with the opposite sex. Oftentimes, these boundaries are not respected. So when I speak with men somewhere in the workplace or at university, obviously
they want to shake hands.
Yeah,
but the British are good at this. They're kind of distant. The French, Spanish, they kind of huggers and all that kind of stuff. But Britain's not bad in that sense, right?
Come again, sorry?
Britain is pretty good in terms of, the British are quite, you're British, aren't you, sister? They're quite distant with one another. They don't really come that close.
It depends. I think it depends on where you are. At a university, there's diverse people that from different backgrounds. They hug and kiss on cheeks and whatnot, even shaking hands, obviously. But it has been limited to some extent because people just keep their distance. So I think that is one good aspect that we can try to take away.
For a hijab sister?
Yes, obviously, if you try to keep that kind of boundary between yourself and...
So it's helped you, Corona?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Okay. Brothers, any comments on this whole Corona impact? I'll come to you, Mr. Bisharat, in a moment. Yes, brother, in the middle there. We haven't had your contribution.
Assalamu alaikum. Just on this virus, right?
Yeah, I think it's a hoax.
Not a hoax. I won't say it's a conspiracy.
Okay.
However, I think social media and the media itself hasn't helped. It's made something really big when really and truly, if this was to take place about 10 years ago, I don't think most of us would know what it was. I think the death rate compared to the normal flu, the flu is...
So these governments are stupid, right, closing the haram?
I wouldn't say they're stupid. I guess they're going with caution, especially because of what they've seen in other countries. And everything's kind of reactionary, right? And I think as Muslims, alhamdulillah, it's a religion where it's based on cleanliness, right? So alhamdulillah, in terms of all these actions where posters are being put up in corporate
eating
places
bats,
like
wasn't it? Where it all started from eating creatures which Allah has made haram anyway, right? I mean, how did it start? Yeah.
If that's the case, and our religion teaches us to be clean regularly throughout the day for our salah when we go and pray in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't need posters everywhere in our workplace to tell us about washing our hands. In corporate places where they've got it in toilets as well, for them to remind people about washing their hands and stuff, right? So
exactly,
just on that.
And interestingly, I'm sorry, I'm going to interject on this. Interestingly, there was a program on BBC Radio 4 where they did a study on how people wash their hands and they don't after they use the washroom. And in most cases, people didn't wash their hands when there was nobody in the bathroom. So they do their business, they'll come out. If there was nobody there, they had cameras there, they would just walk out. But if there were people there, they would feel a consciousness and then they would wash their hands. That's a problem in society's perception of cleanliness.
Most definitely. I think it's just a reminder for us to be clean, as we already are, alhamdulillah, but also not to be scared. For example, the examples you said in terms of sharing a plate together or drinking from the same cup. Just got to be cautious in what we do. But alhamdulillah, I think there's nothing to be scared of.
So you're not wearing a mask?
Not today, no.
Okay.
Nigeria, not.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much, brother. Sisters, yes?
I think for us Muslims, it's quite easy to understand this topic because we believe in the qadr.
Yeah.
We do our job to protect ourselves, and then if it hits us, then we say alhamdulillah either way. I think there's one narration where obviously the Prophet ﷺ, he tied the camel and then he relied upon Allah. So we do our job to protect ourselves, and whatever comes our way is qadr, and we should be happy about it.
Okay. Eid festival is going to come. Eid in the park. Bashar, yes, we'll have your point, then I'm going to Eid.
You know, ta'un is plague or a contagious disease.
Spreading,
Very amazing incident from the Khilafah of Umar radiallahu an, ta'un Amwas. When he traveled from Medina, when he heard about the suffering of the people. And Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah radiallahu anh was the Emir. When he got there, they greeted him and they began a discussion. We talk about isolating and quarantine and so on. And when they were talking, the nasiha of the Sahaba was that he should not enter. And Abu Ubaidah Jarrah famously said, Atafiru min ardillah, min qadrillah, are you fleeing from the qadr of Allah? And Umar ibn Khattab said, Nufiru min qadrillah ila qadrillah. And then the Sahabi came. This hadith. إذا سمعتم بالطاعون بأرض فلا تدخلوها وإذا وقع بأرض وأنتم بها فلا تخرجوا منها. When that hadith was mentioned, the affair was settled because neither of these two great Sahaba knew this hadith.
Quarantine concept,
Quarantine. And to cut the story short, and we should follow all advice which is genuine, based upon knowledge, to protect us and safety of all citizens, not just Muslims, whether it's Ramadan, whether it's Eid. And this tells you that when Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah became Shaheed, then 25,000 Sahaba, Tabi'een, and other citizens of that locality died in the Ta'un Amwas, which is modern-day West Bank in the Middle East. And they practiced them. Abu Musa al-Ashari, Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anh, and at the end it was Amr ibn As radiallahu anh when it stopped. And then Umar ibn Khattab went back to oversee it, i.e. that the rulers should not run away from the problems. They should be in the front line to solve and lead and help. And that's what we have to watch. So it's not conspiracy theories. We should follow good advice because Islam talked about quarantine, self-isolation, and basically segregation to prevent a contagious disease.
Spreading, no problem. Thank you very much, Jazakallah khair, for that. Let's go back to the challenges. Sometimes in Ramadan, you have people who start off very keen in Ramadan, midway through Ramadan, you have the classic lull, and then maybe you spike up towards the end, and then you get really hyper when you go and do your Eid shopping, right? So how do people deal with this wave of spiritual up and down in Ramadan? It happens, right? Yes, sister.
Well, for me, this wave of up and down goes throughout the year, not only in Ramadan. So, you deal with it in the ways that you do. And in light of all that's said now...
How many years have you been fasting?
7 as a Muslim, once as a non-Muslim.
Oh, okay.
But in light of all the conversations that have gone on today, I'm beginning to think that my Ramadan's quite blessed. not isolated. And all that's been mentioned, that the brother wanted to be more isolated. Obviously, well, not so obviously, but I do that. I do read my Quran and study it the best that I can. But like I said, it's my job that I can't go out at the times now to other people's houses anyway, or have them in at mine. So I've forgotten the question, I'm sorry.
We've touched on issues about corona. We've touched on issues about how some people have different working hours. We've touched on issues about how some people feel solitary. Some people become very, very busy. We've touched on issues about why they feel that the community maybe needs to do more to help reverts, for example. I want to move this debate onto the issue of moon sighting a little bit more. This is the classic moon wars, and everybody makes those nice posters on Instagram, sends it around, and makes ridicule of the whole issue of the moon sighting problem. What is it that we're doing wrong? Why is it that we're unable to unify together and do things together? Over to you. You're a journalist, right?
Yeah, I just think it's an.
So you write a lot about this topic?
Not community issues. I talk more about politics.
Right.
In the Middle
Well,
East.
it is political decisions.
In some ways it is, and I think this is one of the problems. It's insoluble. I don't think we will solve this problem. Partly because of the methodologies people use and adopt in determining when is moon. So, because mosques within the UK are really satellites to mosques in the motherland, whether it be Pakistan or in the Middle East, until we resolve this political issue, I think, this dimension, I don't think we will have a situation where Muslims in the UK will unify and have Eid or Ramadan in the same day. So that's a wider problem, and I can't see it being solved, to be honest, in my lifetime, because of the way institutions in the UK have been set up, based around opinions in the Middle East, opinions in Pakistan. So this problem is going to continue.
I'm going to go to Basharat here, and then I'm going to go back to you in a minute. Okay, go ahead.
As the ayah of Quran says, هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ. That the Quran is the guidance, the clear proof, and a criterion. So when you look at this, as brother said here, it is a political problem. Because the Muslims have no problem amongst themselves. You go to any masjid, you see the full rainbow of Islam, either from the whitest of the white to the blackest of the black. We don't look at the imam's iman. We don't look at his skin color. We just say what madhab he's following. We pray. The ummah has that unity. And you mentioned the issue being a political problem and nationalist problem. There's a very beautiful poem that comes to mind which is consistent with the hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Muhammad Iqbal famously wrote a poem. He said, Kya Muslim ne bhi ta'mir kiya haramon? Has the Muslim built a new haram? Tahzeeb ke azar ne tarashwa sanam aur. He used the name of Ibrahim alayhi salam's father, the chief idol maker. The high priests of culture have created a new sanam, a darling, something they love. In taza khudaon mein sabse bada watan hai. He said, in these new gods, the biggest of them is the nation state. Jo pair haan iska hai, wo mazhab ka kafan hai. The one who wears the garb, the flag, the anthems, and what comes with them, the religious duties, office, and so on, is the one who wears the shroud of the deen, i.e. you're praying janazah on Islam when you adopt this. And the essence is, do you follow Saudi, do you Morocco? These are all, to be very frank with you, post-colonial states, whichever one. And the methodology they adopt are diverting and poisoning the love and affection of Muslims and are a symbol of disunity. And as the brother said rightly, this becomes a problem to be solved. And in Islam, with the Quran and Ramadan, we look at that, and this is a symbol of our disunity and our humiliation, and we must work to bring back the Sunnah of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam and establish Islam as a way of life. It's very simple.
The other flip, thanks for the comments, brother. The other flip side is, and I'm going to come to you in a minute, brother, is the whole discussion that a lot of people who look for excuses, who like to complain about the Muslims, they always say, well, as if the day we all unite on Eid, the day we all unite in starting Ramadan, suddenly the Ummah is going to become altogether unified, and that's the only litmus test that we have for our unity, which isn't really the case. We have a lot of complexities, a lot of problems, a lot of geographical issues. Saudi's issue is, yes, they could be right, they could be wrong in their scenarios, and even following them is a legitimate position for one to have. Go ahead, yeah.
It's the question to the brothers who obviously we were talking about this, and it gets quite complex for the viewers and people watching. The awam nas, the standard person, isn't it upon that person just to follow what the central masjid, for example, is doing.
Yeah, or their local masjid.
Their local masjid or the central masjid, and then rest, leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So obviously for those watching and thinking, subhanAllah, this is getting quite a heated debate, Morocco versus Saudi Arabia, whatever it is. Inshallah, like the brothers, subhanAllah, in our WhatsApp groups, we tend to have a lot of debates every year, subhanAllah, similar things being discussed. And we say, khalas, I'll leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is my local masjid or the central masjid to decide, inshallah. And the main purpose is unity. That's the biggest thing, not proving each other wrong, to follow. Even if you feel that it is wrong, inshallah, let your ego to a side, inshallah.
No problem. Barakallah fiqh. I'm going to go to the sister here. Yes, go ahead, sister.
So I agree with that point, but it can be quite dangerous to say that I'm just going to do what everybody else does, because it can have a negative impact on other decisions you make. Some people just don't like taking responsibility, and obviously Allah has given us the community, but He's also given us our brain to use. So if the people around you are doing something and it is wrong, then you need to think about what could be right. So some people take that as an excuse to just be lazy and to do what everyone else is doing, and not just because everybody else is doing it means that it's right.
Can I just mention, with regards to Eid specifically, the ulama mentioned the biggest thing to do is to join with the jama'ah.
I agree in that sense. I agree.
But generally, what you're saying is completely right in terms of with other things. Don't be a blind follower. Even if you are muqallid, be somebody who understands the nusus, understands the texts. Whatever you're following. But when it comes to Eid, especially in celebrations, then we let go of this kind of what is right, what wrong, and we go to the community, inshallah.
Would you think it will have an impact, coronavirus, on Eid Salah? I mean, Eid on the green and Eid in the park. You're having like Eid in the park was almost like 40,000 people plus who attended. Do you think it will have an impact on people attending these festivals during Eid? Or are we just going to say, oh, no problem, Qadar Allah, we're going to go? I'll take the brothers coming at the back behind you. Inshallah, come to you, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. I think if we follow the cleanliness, what we are supposed to, and at the same time, if we follow the food, what we are eating, like what happens, the coronavirus is not more dangerous or very severe compared to the other viruses. It's normal. So what happened, the people who died, their immune system was not strong enough.
Right.
So if we think about the food...
But not having food in Ramadan, doesn't it weaken your immunity?
No, it actually increases the immune system due to the autophagy. And the Japanese scientists...
Are you a doctor?
I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm a medical statistician.
Right, okay, mashallah, good.
So the Japanese scientist who got a Nobel Prize on autophagy, so during Ramadan, what happens in our body, our dead cells and lot of poison, that basically there's a cleaning process going on to the body. So we become slightly younger looking because all the dead cell and everything goes out. Of course, we need to follow the health regulations. If we eat too much after iftar until the mid of the night, so we don't get the benefit. So if we follow the food, the healthy food and the cleanliness, I don't think it will have an impact in Eid.
If anything, the people will have good immunity.
Yeah.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair, inshallah. Yes, from the sister side, I'll take the sister in the red, and then I'll take you next, inshallah, okay?
Mine was on a...
Okay, no problem. Go ahead, inshallah.
Obviously what he said is right, but the problem is that a lot of people don't really care about what's true. They usually go after their emotion, what the people around them are doing. So it might still have an impact on whether people go, no matter whether it actually is dangerous or not. So I believe that certain people will believe the whole extreme picture that's been built basically by the media, that it can kill and that it will kill you.
But it's contagious, right? It's really contagious.
Yes, it is, but like the brother just pointed out, it is not as bad as media tries to make it look like. So I believe that it might, depending on the situation during that time, it might still have an impact on whether Muslims will be in congregation or not, because they'd rather believe what the media says than what maybe their local GP says or whatever.
Okay. Brother here had a comment, yes. One of you two, it's okay. Either you can go first.
No, I was going to say, in the worst case scenario, the decision may well be taken away from us. I mean, the governments may pass...
What, ban Salatul Jum'ah in masajid in the UK?
I mean, if the advice is to close down schools, if the advice is to close down stadiums, I can't see mosques remaining open. So people may go and pray, but I think mosques it would be they will not be fulfilling their duty and responsibility when every congregation is closed down by allowing Eid Jama'ah to take place, for Taraweeh prayers to take place. Of course, we may be inclined to go, we think, okay, Allah is qadar, we will be fine. But generally, most mosques, responsible mosques, if the government advises to close it down, I think they probably would close it down.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Said when you look at the Ta'awun al-Ams, when Umar ibn Khattab and Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah are having
quarantine the whole area, yeah.
Because if the Shari precedent is established that this is a contagious outbreak, then the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obliges.
Yeah.
Because you can't escape death anyway. Death is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ajal is fixed. But that is not the same as being foolish and, okay, we'll have to tawakkul and put ourselves at risk. The Sharia obliges you to take all precautions. And then the Shaykh can tell us, I mean, in exceptional circumstances, you'll have to make exceptional arrangements in your garden, if necessary, for your family to pray Salat al-Eid al-Jum'ah. The Sharia is flexible, alhamdulillah, and the Shaykh may want to say something.
Yeah, inshallah. Go ahead, yes, bro. Yeah.
The thing is really some communities, they think that the coronavirus is only for other countries. Not
only for the Chinese.
Not for the Muslims.
Yeah.
Because when we say that we take precautions, they say, Allah said, أينما تكونوا يدرككم الموت ولو كنتم في بروج مشيدة.
Yeah.
He says, this ayah says that wherever you are, even in fortress, death will come to you.
Yes.
But when we say that, yes, Allah said also, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَّا التَّهْلُكَ, and do not also throw yourself in something that you know that it will happen.
Yes.
But they say, because we Muslims, we do wudu and we pray always, and there is no Muslim that had this disease. But there is now Muslims who had this problem, and Muslim countries also, people travel from there, and they went to other countries, the Western countries, and then they spread the virus. So, and they say to us, we don't care. We are Muslims and do not scare. You will die one day or something like that, which is wrong. We should take precautions always, really.
I'm going to switch a little bit onto after Ramadan. Okay, so let's say we get through Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us reach Ramadan, and inshallah ta'ala we are able to complete the 30 days of fasting, or 29, depending on the moon sighting. And then inshallah ta'ala we are able to have some sort of celebration for Eid. What's the challenges after Ramadan? I mean, there are sisters out there that slap on a hijab only in Ramadan. There are brothers out there, maybe because they're just lazy, they grow a bit of a longer stubble. There are brothers out there and sisters who maybe just pray in Ramadan, right? What's the challenge, man? I mean, how can you do? I mean, you know, it's that whole paradox, right? If they open their fast and then around the back of the masjid and they're taking their, they're dragging up, aren't they? Really? So, what challenges are there after Ramadan? I'll take the brothers here, then I'll come to you, sister, next, inshallah. Yeah.
This whole concept about Ramadan Muslims, right, and we look down upon it, I think we should actually look to how we can encourage those brothers and sisters who are coming to the masjid, who are following the sunnahs in Ramadan, to try and make them continue after. My personal experience was that I got closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of Ramadan, right? Okay. Being able to spend time in the mosque, performing itikaf.
Were you practicing when you committed to doing i'tikaf in the masjid?
No, you know what? In fact, I didn't even know what itikaf was until the Imam told me. He told me, he said this word itikaf. I was like, what is that? Is that an event?
So for you, it was like a little kind of chill out camping trip in the masjid.
So yeah, it was a retreat for us, right? Yeah. So for and even though we went,
no new term, retreat. Yes,
it was more of a spiritual retreat. And even though we were young at the time, there was a few of our friends gathering together. Yep. We felt the benefit of staying in the masjid in those last 10 days. And what that did was that it kind of conditioned us that we were able to spend time in the masjid following on from Ramadan. Yeah. And I think that's what we need to realize, that in the month of Ramadan, shaitan is locked away. And that's when you see the goodness of people. That's why the masjids are full. Yeah. That's why you see people starting to get closer to Allah.
So less judgmental?
We definitely,
like the sister said earlier on in the program, in part one, to be less judgmental, or people like look on others and say they're not doing enough, and if they are, maybe perhaps not that practicing, but out of some sense of guilt and shayateen being locked up, we should welcome them.
Yeah, most definitely. I think, and the practicing brothers who have been practicing for a while, or the practicing sisters, we need to accommodate for that, right? Because this is a way of increasing the ummah to make sure everyone's getting on the same wavelength. Let's be realistic. The majority of the Muslims in this country are not that practicing. Hence why we're going through so many problems. Hence why the masjids aren't as full as they should be. However, right? Using Ramadan as a means of getting them closer to Allah, closer to the masjid, closer to the brothers and sisters, and then enabling them to go and build on the back for it. And especially, I remember, you're going to be at a high in Ramadan. There's so much higher you can be because, again, shaitan is locked up. It's a month for blessings. However, after that, you're most definitely going to go low.
Yeah.
But it's how low you're going to go.
Okay.
And that's where you control it.
I'm going to cut you there, brother. You had something to say, then we'll come to you next, inshallah ta'ala.
Yeah, we'd love to hear, inshallah, from everyone else. But just the point I wanted to mention is obviously, from the hadith, قُلْ آمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ ثُمَّ اسْتَقِيمُ. That part, istiqama, is a very difficult thing to continue on.
But Iman goes up and down. This is what we believe. This is Yazid wa yanqus.
But what Brother Said says, subhanAllah, that the environment in Ramadan is very conducive to our imans. And everybody around you is fasting. And how can we continue to basically do these ibadat, especially those that, in the night, qiyamul layl, things like that. It can be very difficult for us when the environment isn't, supporting us in that. And it's upon the du'at, upon the talabat al-ilm and, the ulama, to have a rifq, have a softness in their heart for those individuals that are struggling, especially with the climate. I think you mentioned earlier with regards to social media, with regards to the current climate, for the du'at to do more, to not shun off brothers, and also those brothers and sisters who maybe were du'at and they fell off. Right, this is something that people don't speak about as well. Certain people, and you just cancel these people. Why can't we invite them back, inshallah, to the deen, to basically open our arms and open our classes, inshallah, to these people.
So overall, welcome them and use this Ramadan as an opportunity to bring them in further. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, somebody got the mic there, please. And then one of the sisters had a comment on this issue.
Back to
somebody else.
The Quran, because the Quran actually is the basis of the whole month of Ramadan. Two ayats stick out for me, which are relevant to this, because we live in a secular society, and secularism says enjoy your day life and your worldly life, and you can worship as well if you don't want to worship and be an atheist or agnostic. Everything's on the table. Muslims are not secular. We are a comprehensive and composite human being, and the fitrah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the human being in needs to be challenged and guided. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبُّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. The inclination. And the other ayah that comes to mind, the meaning of it is that, do they not deeply ponder or reflect upon the Quran, or are their hearts sealed? I.e., is the inclination not consistent? The other ayah is the intellectual challenge. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبُّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Do they not deeply ponder intellectually upon this Quran? Or if they did, they would surely, if they challenged it, if it wasn't from Allah, they would surely find many contradictions. The lessons for us in Ramadan, especially those who recite the Quran in the masajid, the huffaz, they need to explain and summarize the pertinent points in every evening, because 90% of the Muslims in this country don't understand or speak Arabic. So the gold, the treasure of this Quran
should be summarized. I think a lot of masajid are developing.
Not enough, though.
But not enough,
But the point being that what you're doing is you're creating the intellectual confidence and the spiritual inclination that will become the fuel, inshallah, for the year to come, that they will follow. And all of us need it. We all
going.
Wallahi, we all go to the Everest level and then drop. So that's how I think you build the confidence, build the motivation, build the energy, and build the drive, inshallah.
Take comment from the sister here, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for that. Yes, go ahead, sister. And I'll take one from you at the back, okay?
SubhanAllah, it sounds like we've got such busy schedules and such busy lives. And as far as I know, it takes 30 days to maintain a habit or to start a habit. So if anything, if we can just take one thing from Ramadan, whether it was we prayed Allah Sunnah or we read just one page of Quran, if we can take that after Ramadan and try to keep that going or sustain that as much as we can, at least we've taken some benefit with us and we haven't just burnt out near the end, subhanAllah. Just something as I don't even say miskeen as that, but just something to
do you make your plan? Do you make your plan for Ramadan?
I in my mind I do.
Do you write it down?
I try to do that also. It doesn't sometimes work because subhanAllah, life is unpredictable and with children and all the other things that happen.
Other pressures,
But just something as miskeen as that, just to try to take it through.
To look at a particular goal and try to identify that and work towards it.
And make that your own.
Sister at the back, Jazakallah khair for that comment. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with what the brother said about Ramadan.
Mike, a bit closer to your mouth, please. Thank
Sorry. I agree with what the brother said about the Ramadan Muslims, that we should hold on to them and hopefully build good spirituality.
You've come from outside of Islam. I just interrupt you. May I just
fine.
Do you find Muslims quite judgmental, generally?
Yes. Not even generally, really. And I struggle with, because it's all learning still to me, even 7 years on, that I have seen Muslims do Ramadan. I hear them moan about why can't they have the whole month off work. I thought, it's such a beautiful month. Why don't you actually feel the humility of having to work and not having any food as well? But that doesn't seem to touch them. And year on, they just do that month.
Right.
I'm confused why they pay their zakat just in that month, because
they happen to have all timed it to be in Ramadan.
Yeah, but so why was that? I became a Muslim in October. Therefore, if I'm paying my zakat every year, I pay mine in October, say. Yeah. So I don't understand how they all do it. And I get that it's more rewarding, but they do everything so practically. They do nothing with, I feel, not all of them. And I am seeing, or what I'm seeing is that it is all just rituals and practicalities, and that even to the point of being quite put out that there's no Pakistani mangoes in season yet to break fast. What is that about?
That's a good one.
And I'm like, oh, hold on. I thought we're supposed to use dates.
Thank you very much for your comment, sister. Appreciate that, inshallah. Yes, well, just want to quick jumping back onto the moon sighting issue. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think in general we have just a couple of problems. That is ego and lack of understanding. And I don't let that get to me. I don't mind if somebody's not doing it on the same day as me. I will just join in whatever day and try and make the time.
Something you feel that's worth.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Make an issue out of it and let it get in between me and
I think that kind of unity attitude is quite important. Yeah. I'd just like to say thank you very much for all of you participating here in the audience, for the viewers at home, and inshallah ta'ala, may Allah give you all tawfiq to overcome all your challenges in Ramadan. May this Ramadan one of great blessings, in which you come out of Ramadan better than when you came into it. Barakallahu feek. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.